So, Brian Mast, are you getting pretty much the information you want to get about the Venezuelan operations? I mean, you may not be getting them while the operations are going on, of course. But if you inquire about something, are you able to get pretty much the information that you want?
Yes. So over the Thanksgiving holiday, I was down in a number of places in the Caribbean, getting information on this, meeting with service members that were down there conducting operations, of which I had many positive things to say about what it is that they had to say. For any member of the House of Representatives, if they want to go travel down to Florida and go to Southcom and get a brief about the operations that are going on there directly from Southcom, they could have that take place. There are a myriad of options for members of the House to go out there and get information.
Are you being stonewalled? I know every member of Congress thinks they should be commander-in-chief. I know every member of Congress thinks they should be the commander of an operation or a general or an admiral. I get it. The egos are massive and so forth, but that's not the way the Constitution's supposed to work, really. I mean, basic information, knowledge about what's taking place, that's certainly understandable. The role of Congress is legislative, to oversee executive branch actions in terms of the institution of legislation and the effectuation of legislation. The role of Congress is not to steal the powers of the executive branch and make decisions about whether war is made. You have the power to declare war. You don't have the power to make war. What do you think about that?
A number of things. So one, let's just point to the system that is the partisan system of the House of Representatives and the Senate. You have reporters that wait outside of our SCIFs. That's where we get our classified information, just waiting to ask the members of the House, hey, what were you told inside of that classified briefing, which is should be moronic to anybody that somebody's going to ask you what you just heard in that classified briefing. But that's how leaky the House of Representatives is. There's just people waiting to ask you about that. And people either leak the information on purpose or they slip because they're just not paying attention. Either one puts our service members in danger, but they have option to get the information that they need. The last thing that you want is members of Congress going out there and planning the military operations. I don't think anything could be worse for our service members in uniform. Now, as it relates to the power of the president has every bit of Article 2 authority to go out there and protect the homeland of the United States of America from this very imminent threat. Not just an imminent, I wouldn't just call it an imminent threat. This has been a pervasive threat going on year after year, decade after decade. And the president finally said, he's had enough. We're not going to be a part of this situation where you have, maybe a dozen law enforcement boats throughout an area of the Caribbean that's being combated by hundreds of narco drug trafficking boats in a system that they know they're never going to be able to keep up on. So he did what? He brought the American military, the Ford Battle Group, to protect the homeland of the United States directly in the Gulf of America. There's no better use for our carrier battle group than directly protecting our people from this imminent threat that is in place, this imminent and proven pervasive threat.
Very well said. I as just a pedestrian American citizen here who loves my country looking at this, the idea that the Democrats and a few of these Republicans, that the media are so desirous of trying to cripple these operations, of trying to distract the Secretary of War, of trying to demean the commander-in-chief. Don't our enemies see this? Doesn't this undermine the operation to some extent? The Maduro, the dictator, the communist dictator, and his supporters, whether in Iran or Cuba or China or Russia, they're probably figuring, we have an inside assistant here. We have the media, the Democrat Party, and some of these Republicans. So wouldn't this help prolong the situation?
The work of protecting America is not easy. It's always dangerous. It's often deadly. It's a situation where there are very few that want to do it and even less that are capable of doing it. And you layer that upon exactly what you were just pointing out. You have a media that wants us to broadcast everything that we're going to do before we do it. That couldn't be more stupid. It's definitely a great way to put our service members in danger. You have members of the House and the Senate that want to go out there and decide that they're going to be the generals and decide how the operations are going to take place. That couldn't be worse for our service members. And then you have this handful of individuals that were making those videos. And what were they trying to do with their video? They were trying to create revolt within the United States Armed Forces in this place where, again, the work is dangerous and deadly. They wanted revolt in there because of their politics.
When we come back, I want to return to that in connection with Venezuela and our other military operations, when you have 6 members of the House or Senate who abuse and exploit the service that they had in our country, whether military intelligence, to literally undermine our country and give aid and comfort to the enemy, because that's exactly what they did. We'll be right back. Something before the break, these 6 members of Congress who put out that video, it almost looked like a hostage video, to tell you the truth, that they look so ridiculous. But all that said, the idea that they would use their service to then undermine the services of our government, to give aid and comfort to the enemy, saying, wow, we have senators and congressmen who've served, who are saying, defy the President of the United States, when the President of the United States has never issued a single unconstitutional order, not one. But we're just telling them just in case. Just in case. How does that affect the active duty military now, whether they're working in Venezuela or special ops working in other parts of the world, when they see 6 members of the United States Congress do something like that with the backing of the American media?
Look, luckily, so many of our service members are smart enough to look at that video. And this is what I heard from the service members when I was in the Gulf over Thanksgiving weekend, is them telling me, you know what, before President Trump came in, I was about to exit service. I was about to retire because I'd been in long enough, or I was just going to exit the military because my contract was up and I didn't want to stay in. And they said that video is exactly the kind of BS that was making them want to get out before. Thank God that President Trump came in and gave them direction in their mission, gave them clarity in their mission, and was giving them the tools to go out there and accomplish their mission with the best possible circumstances to come home alive. That's what they deserve as service members. It's what they weren't getting in the past, and it's what they are getting now. And they couldn't have been more disgusted to see that video take place from the hundreds that I spoke to.
Isn't the president doing exactly what a patriotic American would want him to do? And that's this. He sees that people came here from Afghanistan, they weren't vetted. He says, all right, that's enough. You shot 2 National Guardsmen. You murdered this young lady who was 20 years old, that great hero. Shot her in the back of the head. And so he says, okay, stop. Everybody's going to be revetted because they weren't vetted in the first place. Then we have Somalians who were brought in by the tens of thousands by the prior regime. And you have this massive fraud going on in that community with the support of the moronic governor, apparently. And he says, you know what, that's enough of that. We're going to look at that. As a matter of fact, there's 19 countries that we're going to look at. And then the Secretary of DHS, she says, and the President, you know what, we're going to look at the whole third world. Isn't that wise? You let in 20 million people here illegally. We don't know who they are. And they're roaming the countryside. And we have people from the Middle East who are talking about overthrowing the country, the river to the sea. The American people are looking at this and saying, what the hell is going on? Is somebody going to do about it? And the president's doing something.
I conducted the investigation a couple of years ago into the withdrawal, the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan under Blinken, under Biden, under all those Sullivan and all those people. And what we found out in witness after witness was the people that were showing up to get out of Afghanistan, they didn't have ID, they didn't have a passport. They were literally given, these are quotes, literally given a blank piece of paper. They would take a photograph of them. There was no biometrics. They would write the name that the person told them, and they'd say, okay, go get on the airplane. There was no vetting whatsoever. Everything that our president is doing, every bit of policy across the board is to protect the American homeland, whether securing our southern border, whether deporting people that are here illegally, whether bringing carrier battle groups to the Gulf of America, that's protecting the American homeland, whether rebalancing what's going on with our trade, making sure that the U.S. dollar is not in danger as the world's reserve currency, whether it's sending people abroad that weren't vetted when they came over from Afghanistan or anything else. Every single action tallies up to protecting the American people and protecting the American homeland. And I could not be more proud of this president for making that the line in the sand for every bit of policy.
Now, that's 100% right. And let's keep in mind the complete opposite of that. The Democrats are opposing him every single step of the way because he's reversing their anti-American destructive policies that have really caused such damage to this country. Brian Mast, thank you for your past service. Thank you for your current service. And I'm just proud that you're my congressman. God bless you, brother.
Thank you, sir. God bless.